Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Corner. It is that time of day again. Time for Andy's HVAC Tech Tips of the day. Today's Tech Tip number 20, and 20 is an important one, or at least I think it is. I wanted to talk a little bit about diagnostics or service calls, whatever your company wants to call them. But I think a lot of guys out there in the field that have been out there for a while, I think either we take it for granted or we, kind of forget about what that diagnostic or service call means. If you're coming into the field, maybe you don't quite understand what it's all about, or if you've never been in the field and you're getting ready to, then maybe you have no idea what it is altogether. But most important of what I'm talking about today is the cost of a service call or the cost of a diagnostic. No matter where you're working at, everybody's prices are going to be different, and depending on if you're on the West Coast, the East Coast, somewhere halfway in between, most of those prices are all going to be different. The company that you work for is going to um, come up with that price of what it actually costs for a diagnostic and what's involved in that. But most companies do some form of flat rate pricing. There's a lot of different flat rate pricing companies out there for contractors that contractors can take advantage of in order to make it easier for the company, make it easier for the technician, everything like that. Time and material sometimes gets a little complicated, especially when it comes to the homeowner and residential service. I've worked for companies that do time and material, and even where I'm at now, years ago we used to do time and material, but it does get complicated sometimes. So the flat rate pricing of the different types, it's easier for you as a technician, it's easier for the customer, and everything like that. So it just all around works well for the company, or most companies. So with that flat rate pricing, most all of them have a diagnostic charge or a service call fee or whatever you want to call it. But I think a lot of times technicians take for granted that diagnostic fee and say, oh, well, all they needed was a wire nut, and, the diagnostic will pay for that. That diagnostic is more for the things that it takes to get you there as a technician. They've got your wages, company is paying for you to be there. So, you're getting paid to be there. You got to pay for the truck that got you there. You have to pay for the fuel in that truck. You have to pay for the insurance on that truck. You have to pay the liability insurance on you as a technician, because Lord forbid something bad ever happens, but it could. I mean, what if you fall through a ceiling? What if you set a house on fire? Don't set a house on fire. That's bad. But, there's all kinds of things that can happen. So there's liability insurance on everything. And then as well as that, you also have the training to make you capable of being able to do the call. I mean, if you didn't have the training, you wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have been able to diagnose their problem and tell them what was wrong, or definitely not be able to fix it. So you've got all the training in there. You've got all the licensing certificates you have to have as a technician. The company has to pay for that. They have to pay for their licensing just to be a business. I mean, there's all kinds of costs that are involved in there. And, that diagnostic, I mean, once you start adding those all up, whatever your diagnostic fee is in your area, usually that's not even enough to cover what it costs for you to actually pull in the driveway, walk up to the house, and ring the doorbell or knock. I always recommend knocking on the door. Don't ring the doorbell. There'll be another video on why I say that, but don't ring the doorbell. Knock. Either way, it takes a lot of money to get you there and to get that furnace fixed. So when you say, okay, well, the diagnostic, it'll cover a little bit of labor, don't even worry about it. Well, if you've got an hour and a half wrapped up in the job by the time you drove there, you introduced yourself to the people, did all the steps you're supposed to do, and you could be a wonderfully great technician and everybody loves you. But you showed up, you talked to them, you found out what the problem was, you fixed the problem, you did your paperwork, you called in, you collected, or whatever you have to do, and you finished out and completed the job. Well, you've got an hour and a half wrapped up in that. Well, that diagnostic didn't pay for that. Most technicians, they know what their hourly rate is for, that company that they work for. So, usually that diagnostic doesn't cover all that extra time that you have there. So the whole point of that diagnostic is to get you there and evaluate the situation and diagnose the problem. I mean, that's why they call it a diagnostic in a lot of places. They don't call it service calls so much anymore in most companies. But, it's for you to figure out what is going on. The repair itself, I don't care if they did just need a wire nut, or if they just needed, somebody needed their thermostat reprogrammed, something like that. That doesn't pay for that. That doesn't pay for the labor for you to do that. So, you have to make sure that you're using that the whatever form of flat rate pricing, you have to make sure that you use it correctly. So like I said, that diagnostic does not cover extra labor to actually do the work. That's why most flat rates, that to do that repair also covers the labor for it. So it's already figured up in there. Somebody smarter than me or you, or at least smarter than me, already came up with what it takes to do that job on average, and came up with a price for it that fits your area, because every area is going to be different. And with straightforward, you know, flat rate pricing, it's going to be you win some and you lose some. And hopefully you're not losing very many by any means, and hopefully everything is priced correctly. Hopefully everything is set up for your company and your technicians and everything like that. But if it is, then great. You're usually, you don't lose much on it as a company. But sometimes something goes wrong and it takes you a little extra time. That's why flat rate pricing usually has a miscellaneous charge, or something like that to try to compensate for that. But the point is, the diagnostic does not cover repairs. The diagnostic is not you fixing something. I see technicians that go on about, we charge X amount of dollars for the diagnostic, and then you want me to charge X amount of dollars to do something minor as well. I feel like I'm charging too much. To me, my time and my knowledge of what I know how to do is worth something to me. It's worth something to the company. That's why they pay me, and that's why they pay you. Our time is valuable. So, you have to make sure that you're charging correctly for that, because if you don't charge correctly and everybody gets away, you just charge a diagnostic to every house you went to. Let's say you go to 25, 30 houses this week, and you only charge a diagnostic, but you do a bunch of repairs and spend a little bit of time there. At that point, you do that enough times in a row, that company cannot stay afloat any longer. They're not making enough money to keep the lights on. They're not making enough money to pay you. So, you're hurting yourself in the long run if you don't use that flat rate pricing correctly. So, that's the biggest thing, is it's not as a technician, you're not trying to get extra money out of anybody. It's a matter of you're charging correctly for your time. So, that was my biggest thing, the diagnostics and the service call charge, whatever you want to call it. You have to make sure you use those accurately. That covers what it takes to get you there. And that was the biggest point I wanted to get across. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, leave them in the comment box below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe as often as possible. Share with some of your friends, whatever. Make sure we try to get the videos out there. And please subscribe. That is more important than anything. We definitely need to see more subscribers on the channel. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, then hit the little bell icon at the top there. That way you get notifications every time a new video comes out. Thank you and God bless.